Hello and welcome to the Good Wife podcast. My name is Rachel. I'm your host and I'm back again with another conversation that I believe should be interesting and hopefully change your life. Yeah. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, hit that notification bell, like this episode, and more importantly, share it with someone, a friend, a community that you are part of. I believe what we are going to share here will change your life. So welcome aboard. I have a special guest today. Before I say what I was going to say, I'm going to introduce him. This is Bob Buga. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Rachel.
Welcome and thank you for being here.
It's an honor. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Yeah. So Bob is one of my husband's best friends. And the reason, there's something I was going to say, which I want to say now, is that in starting this podcast, I have picked from my immediate community.
Yeah.
I've looked out for people that I've sought counsel from, my husband's friends, our mutual friends, because I feel like, A, it makes the conversation even better.
Yes.
But also there's a lot that I have learned from my immediate community that I would want to share with my audience. So thank you for coming.
It's an honor. It's, I've been following and I keep saying that, someday.
Yeah.
And so the day has come.
That day is here.
The day is here. And,
the day is here.
Yeah, and I hope we will have a wonderful conversation. Yeah.
I believe we will.
Yes.
So I'd like to start with an icebreaker. I'm going to ask you maybe one or two.
Yes.
What's your ideal day? What does your ideal day look like?
So, I usually wake up at 5:30.
Okay.
5:30, my alarm is supposed to wake me up, but I kind of wake it up.
Okay.
Somehow in my head, the clock just works.
Yeah.
So I'm up at 5:30. I get myself ready. I get my son ready for school. I am usually at my place of work by 6:55, 7 o'clock. Okay. I'm in office. My day is basically working with students. I work with, if I'm teaching, I'll be in class. If I'm not teaching, I'm attending to student issues or just having conversations with teachers and students. I sometimes do observations, go check on the teachers, see how they're teaching, then give them feedback. Class finishes about 3:10. So Tuesdays and Fridays, I usually have football training. So I coach the U16 and U20. Okay. On Fridays, I also have Model United Nations, so we run clubs at the end of the day. Wednesdays and Thursdays, I have staff meetings on Wednesdays. Yeah. Professional learning on Thursday. Yeah. Wednesday, I have midweek service at St. Francis. So my whole week is structured around my place of work.
Yeah, I see that.
Saturdays are a little bit more relaxed. I usually don't go into work on Saturdays, but I have lots of meetings. Sometimes I sit on the arbitration committee of the Basketball Federation, so usually I'm meeting, talk about arbitration and basketball issues. Yeah. That sounds serious. It is. It is. That's a serious part. Okay. And then usually afternoons I'll be free. So if I'm not at home, unless I'm at a function, maybe a wedding or an event, I'm usually home. My evenings I spend mainly at home. Sunday is just church and family. Okay. So that's my typical day. But that's only when school is in session. Yes. When I'm on holiday, it's I've learned how to relax. Yeah. Previously, I would find myself at work.
During the holiday?
Yes.
Interesting.
I have found myself at work. I think sometimes you get so used to a routine that anything that destabilizes that doesn't feel normal. And so because you're used to waking up at this particular time and following your days almost in a structured way, even during holidays, I find myself doing that. But this last year and a half, I've treasured my holidays. So I'll stay in bed up to 9 o'clock, which is very unusual. Okay. My body rebels at the beginning of the holiday because like, what's going on?
What's happening?
Yeah, but I've treasured that piece of just being at home and relaxing and re-energizing yourself because it can be very hectic. And if you don't have that time to rest, you can't rejuvenate yourself. And for us as teachers, the students feed off the energy that we have. Yeah. And if you're tired, you come into school tired, you come into class tired, that energy is what you give off to the students, and yet you want them to be in an atmosphere where they perform the best. So I've learned how to rest during my holidays.
That's nice.
Yes. And I have many of them.
Yes, you do. I was just about to say you travel quite a bit as well.
Yes, I do. Somehow every time I talk to Ben, it's like, are you on holiday? And I'm like, oh, gosh. I knew that question was coming.
going to come.
The strange thing is that almost every time he calls me, Peter too, almost every time they call me, I'm on holiday. So I'm like, yes, I am. You're like, but when do you ever work?
When
I'm
do
like,
you work?
when I'm not on holiday, I'm working. It's like, when is that?
So how is that? Is it that your curriculum or the school has like, a different set of rules? So you have like holidays kind of scattered throughout the year?
Yes. So the way the international schools work is that we have...
Are you at liberty to say where you work?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
I work at Kampala International School, Kisu. So we use an international curriculum and the calendar is also international. So school usually starts in August or September and goes up to June. So we break out our term in terms of weeks. So we do, first term is usually about 17 weeks altogether. But that is split between 7 weeks. So the first 7 weeks we're in school, then we have a 1 week break, which is what we call a mid-term break. And then we'll come back and have about 4 weeks, then we have another 1 week break where we'll go on trips, usually around the country. This time I'm taking students out of the country. Then we have another 4 weeks, the break off for Christmas for 3 weeks. They will come back in January, do 5-6 weeks, have a 1 week break, then come back for another 6 weeks, then have a 2 weeks break. I wish then eventually leads to the summer, which is about 8 weeks of holiday. So altogether I have about 13 weeks of holiday a year.
No, that's not fair. That's not fair. I mean, us who went to national curriculum schools, really, I feel like that should make school a lot more fun and easier to navigate.
I think it does because in a sense you don't want, you see, towards the end of the term everyone is tired. The brain is tired, the students are tired, the teachers are tired. And if you're tired, you cannot perform at your best. So we break it so that people actually go back and get a bit of rest, come back re-energized. So for me it works. And when I look at our local system, I feel that that's probably where we're lacking because our teachers are really stretched. First of all, the class numbers are huge.
There are many,
So the teachers are stretched with dealing with students, but they don't have sufficient breaks. So they just are tired by the end of it. And you can see it. When you see the kids at the beginning of the time, everyone is excited, buzzing, they're going to school. A couple of weeks later on, they're dragging their feet to school. And that should tell you that, they probably need a break. But the weekends are not enough because again, they get a lot of work on the weekends, so they really don't rest.
So we allow for them to go for the weekends, but we give homework, assignments, and so they end up doing all of that. And then even at home, as parents, we are expecting that
there are chores for them to do. So it's difficult. So unless because even the holidays, when you talk about end of term holidays, I know that they come with work. They have holiday work. So really, a time when they're supposed to be resting, they're still waking up to do work. And I know it's a culture and it's okay. But we've got to recognize, I think as parents, we've got to be confident with the fact that kids need a break.
They do.
And sometimes you've got to force them to have that break. You tell them, you know what, stop, go rest, go rest. Because if you don't tell them, they won't. They'll just keep going. So sometimes we've got to impose it on them. But the schools have to be a little bit more sensitive to the needs of children about resting.
And teachers.
And teachers as well,
And the teachers as well. It's so funny you say that because you say you have only just learned how to rest. And so imagine we pick up this habit from when we're in school because we are going. Then we break for like 3 weeks. We're not really resting because we have some work there. Then we go back into that term. And the local system is 3 terms. And so that habit grows as we grow. And when we get into the workspace as well, now with more responsibilities and, like you have to pay bills. So you're thinking, I have to keep working because that's what I know.
It is. And I think it's also... I mean, many of my friends would tell me, I'm going to take leave because I want to go to the village and finish my project. I'm like, okay, so when do you rest? Because you've taken time off work so you can rest. But you've replaced that time with going to do a project, which is more work. So really when you come back, you're not rested. You're tired. And that's quite a bit of work. So you find that, when we talk about the stresses of life and people being really, conditions like health deteriorating, it's really that we don't rest sufficiently. Because even when we get leave, we actually just substitute that with everything else that we wanted, like a small, gig here, go and finish up a project over there, go and supervise this. So you actually don't rest.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true. Okay, my final icebreaker question. What occupation other than your own would you like to try?
That's a nice one. So I'll tell you a story. When I was in my senior 6 vacation, when I started working university, I was working with these guys in town running a computer company, and I was fascinated by the army.
Really?
Really, really fascinated by the army. So I remember reading a magazine, and then I wrote an application to the British Army.
Are you
I wanted to join the army. I really wanted to join the army. So they sent me all this literature, and they sent me a video tape, because then we didn't have DVDs. So they sent me a video tape, and I watched the tape, and I was like, this is it. I love the way they dressed. I love the fact that they're doing community work. I mean, I was like, I am joining the army, and I was not joining the Ghana army. I was joining the British Army. I mean, Uganda being a British protectorate and in the Commonwealth, you can't join the British Army. So I wrote my application, I filled in the forms. I didn't even tell my dad. I filled the forms. So I went to work, and this person I was working with is called Andrew. So I told Andrew, I'm joining the army. He was like, oh, really? Which army? I told him the British Army. He was like, oh, really? You sure? He said, yes. And now he had experience because he was part of the reserve force. He lived in the UK. So he told me, so here's what I want you to do. Before you send these forms, every single morning, I want you to run 5 miles. Okay, run 5 miles every single morning for a week. Then after that, start putting weight in your bags, because when you join the army, that's what's one of the things you're going to be doing. And then put some weights in there until I think you're supposed to be about 6 kilos, and then you're going to run those 5 miles. Yes, with that weight. I was like, you're joking. He said, no. Forget about all these nice things you're seeing. The training is gruesome. It's intense. I was still determined to join. I was like, that's fine. So I woke up in the morning, I was like, 5 miles. I was a sportsman. I was a lot smaller. I was like, that's nothing. I was a footballer. I'll do this. So I did. I woke up, did my runs. So I came back a week later and was like, here's another thing. Right now there's a war in Iraq. Joining is not going to be a problem. But believe me, you're going to go right in the middle of that war. That's where my dream of joining the army ended. I was like, oh, damn.
You saw your life flash
I was
before you.
I'm not ready to die. I don't have children. I haven't married yet. So that's where the dream ended.
Lord.
Yeah, but if I wasn't doing what I was doing,
if death was not a problem.
If it wasn't a problem, I think I would have joined the army. If it weren't that, I think I would be very seriously in sports or sports administration, because I joined my first football team. I signed up for my first football team when I was 15.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. It was a team called Kifaro back in West Nile. I was taken by a friend of mine called Philip. I was in senior 3. And I got a license, a proper license. I'd earlier on been spotted by Express, but I never really joined. So when I got to university, that dream also kind of died. Yeah.
But you're kind of living it through a lot of the sports work that you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think that for me, it's more of a calling that I've been drawn to sports. I still do sports. Funny thing is that some people who see me at Kisu think I work in the PE department. Because, yeah, because at least twice a week they'll see me with a team. I go out with the team for games. So for some they think, oh, this is one of the PE guys. I'm always talking about sports. Yes. When you walk into my office, there's a big flag of, okay, I won't say which team, but there's a big flag of my team and a calendar.
Say it proud.
There's a big flag of Arsenal there with the calendar and all, and my accolades when I went to the Emirates. So,
So when I decided I want to have Bob on this show, I was thinking there's a bunch of things I want to talk to Bob about. One of them being something that a guest of mine said on this show. And we were talking about marriage and her concern for marriage. We talked about, individuality in marriage, and how as women, when we get married to our husbands, we are engulfed by his vision for the family. And so a lot of women, I think, misunderstand that I can't follow my dreams, I can't do some of the things that I want to do. And so we wholeheartedly support husbands. We support the vision they have for the family. That's if they have one. And where they're going, we enter your world. We make friends with your friends. You enter your family becomes our family. And you find that some women 10, 15 years down the road become resentful.
Yeah.
Because they feel like, I don't recognize myself anymore. I don't have a life. And that's like early on. There are those who go on and now the kids have left the house and they can't recognize themselves because all they know has been their husband and what he wanted to do. And so I felt like I needed us to have a conversation from a man's perspective. First, do you think that this is the way it is supposed to be? Is there some sort of balance where a man can say, no, this is the overall vision for the family, but what do you want to do with yourself? Like, what are your dreams? What are your desires? Is there like a balance? Is it possible for women and men to have that conversation?
There should be. I think first of all, the way our society is structured, it's structured that we come into the man's home.
Yes.
So when we come into his home, we literally come into his world. And seemingly he sets the rules for his world.
Yes.
And we're just passengers along the way.
Followers. And
so we follow where he's going. There's something I've been thinking about lately. I call it relative singularity. And for me, it's a term that I think about in terms of we selfishly do things that we want to do as men, and our wives are somehow supposed to just fall in.
Yes.
They just follow or fall in into those plans. So I wake up and say, we're going to the village. And say, tomorrow we're going to the village, and off we go, because I've said.
Yes.
There is no part of, let's have a conversation about, should we go to the village? What are we going to do? What do you think we should do? I've been married 19 years, and I'm still on this journey of learning.
Interesting.
And after 19 years, I realized that the best decisions I've made are the decisions I've made having consulted my wife.
Wow.
Every wrong decision I've made
is
a decision I've made myself. And I've suffered the consequences of those decisions. That is what relative singularity is all about. It's about, I want something, even when I'm taking care of my wife, it's a very selfish thing. I buy her a gift, and it's a gift that I want.
Yes.
So I buy a toolbox. She's never going to use it. I'm not going to use the toolbox. When I buy a car, I buy a manual car. Okay, you are an exception. Because they're like, oh, I love manual cars. But really, you're buying it because you don't know how to drive it. When When you're going on holiday, you're thinking, oh, I love Dubai. Let's go to Dubai.
Have you asked her where she wants to go?
Have you asked her? Yeah. Maybe she wants to go to Kabale. You know, if you ask her, she may tell you that, you know what, I'm thinking of, I've never been to Ginger.
Yeah.
And here we are going to Dubai. We haven't been to Ginger.
Yeah.
So subconsciously, we may make some of these decisions, but often it's because we've put ourselves in a place of being in charge. And we know that people who are in charge take a lead.
Yeah.
But even when you're taking a lead, there must be room for an alternative voice.
That's true.
What do you think about this? Yes, come up with the ideas. Now let's discuss the ideas. How do you fit into these ideas? Don't come up with the idea and you come up with the solution and
the
somehow
then
you say, so what do you think about this? We're going tomorrow. But we could have had this conversation. Tomorrow may not be a good day for me to go. Yes. And then it becomes a fight. But because you want to fight, you're like, you know what? All my other plans can wait because I don't want us to fight over this, you know? So there are many ladies who have put their dreams on a hold because they're helping their husbands chase their dreams. I think it's selfish. Inherently it is. But I also think that it comes from a position where we've grown up and we've been taught by society, we've been taught by the people around us that you are in charge, and as a person in charge, you make decisions. Guess what? Not all decisions are made by people who are in charge. In fact, often the people who are in charge make bad decisions. Yeah. If you don't consult the people who are on the ground and people who have a broader view, you often are going to be making wrong decisions. I've learned this in my place of work that, yes, I may have a vision, but before I share this vision and execute this vision, I must look at the people who are going to be part of this vision. How do they fit in and what do they want to contribute to this vision? Because if this vision fails,
they are the ones who are going to, you will all suffer.
You are going to suffer, all of you.
Yes.
So you don't just wake up in the morning and say, okay, now, man, I work in Nigeria. We stay in Nansana. So we're going to move the kids from Sapolo Kagua, which is in Nakasero. We're going to move them to a school along that road because for me it makes it like. But your wife, it's going to inconvenience her.
Yeah.
It means that the kids have got to wake up earlier than she's got to wake up earlier to prepare them. You know, the ripple effect is so far ahead. You're not looking at it that way. You're thinking about the immediate. And so for us as men, we've got to get to that point where we're like, this is a partnership.
Yeah.
This is a relationship. There are two of us in this. There are other people, but the two of us are the people who are mainly affected by whatever decisions.
True.
If a decision is going to affect more than one person, that decision cannot be made by one person.
One person.
It should never be made by one person.
Yeah.
Because everyone else who's a stakeholder in that decision has to be part of making that decision.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be that you feel you've been asked. You know, sometimes we say things in a suggestive way where you have no choice but to accept.
To allow, yes.
And later on you're like, did I accept that? How did I accept that?
I don't feel like I did.
I did, but it's the way it was presented to you.
Yes.
You almost had no choice. I was telling one of my students recently that in every situation you have a choice.
That's true.
But often in some situations your choices are limited to one.
Yes, which is not much of a choice.
Which is not much of a choice.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's also a choice, and you could say no. Yes.
Okay.
Where the choice is one, you could still say no.
You can still say no,
Yeah.
and that's a choice.
It's still a choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a choice. I mean that is in terms of like decisions. So let's say as a woman, I have a dream, maybe to start a bakery at some point. My husband is into, I don't know, engineering. I'm trying to make them as far apart as possible. Is there a space for women to pursue their dreams? Does that take away from the oneness in marriage?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think there is room for everyone to pursue their dreams. We live in a society again where many of us are not living the dream that we've wanted to.
There's that too, yeah.
We are conditioned to be where we are because circumstances force us to be there. However, whatever the dream is, have you shared it? Does the dream make sense? You know, there are certain things that we do not because there is a big end goal to it, but because it puts us in a place of safety, in a place of relative calm and relative comfort. There are certain things, I'll tell you that there are people who know that their businesses are making a loss.
But
the number of people they are employing and families they are feeding and taking care of takes care of all the other worries of the business. They'll take out of another business to support this business because they know that in this business I've got a single mother, I've got a girl who's been thrown out of school, I've got a boy who's been kicked out of home. And if I close this business because it's not making profit for me, these people have nowhere to go. So I'll sustain this business not because I'm making money from it, but I'm actually helping someone. That is a very hard thing to sell to your partner. Because they'll be like, why? We're bleeding here. We have responsibilities. But that is what's on your heart. For you, it makes more sense to help other people than to give yourself the comfort and the luxury that you may be looking for. That is hard, but it's there. So I think that for any family and any relationship to work, you have to recognize that by the time you married your spouse, they had dreams.
Yes.
There are things that they wanted to do. And most likely during the time that you were dating, they talked about these things. And because you were pursuing her, you said, yes,
we will do that.
We'll do this. Yes. Oh, you want to go and do a PhD? Why not?
Don't worry.
You do a PhD. I'll even come and support you. Now you've got married. Here's the problem, Rachel, is that when this ring comes on, for many people, that's where the pursuit ends.
That's so true.
And because that pursuit has ended, all the things that the other person wanted to do are shelved. And that is so selfish.
Yes, it is.
You cannot stop pursuing the person that you desired because you've married them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people get married and they stop going on dates, they stop going for movies, they stop buying all the things they're paying for, they stop because they feel that, oh, I've reached, I've arrived, I have gained what I was looking for. But it's more than that. When I was dating you, you told me all these things that you wanted to do.
Can we revisit them?
Can we revisit them? What has happened to this? Recently I was talking to my wife and I told her, I know that you wanted to do a master's. Why are you not doing a master's? And she has the reasons. I want her to do a master's. And she tells me, no, I can't commit myself to being in school when I have a child who needs my attention. So I've not stopped her, but she says, as long as I have this child that I have to pick up from school, I have to sit down with them to do their homework, I have to make sure that they're ready for school, I can't do all of this. She says, when they finish this level of school, then I can start chasing this dream. That's a conversation I revisit almost every year.
Wow.
Because I am intentional, because I don't want her, I don't want to stop her chasing her dreams because of where I am going.
Yes.
So when I wanted to do a master's, I went and told her, yeah, I want to do a master's. She said, what does that entail? It means I may not be able to come and pick the child from school. I may not be able to do all of this. And she says, that's fine. I'll take on that responsibility. I'll make sure that they're ready. We had that conversation.
Yes.
We had that conversation. So almost everything that I try to do, I make sure that it fits in with. So I'll ask her, so I want to do X, Y, and Z. What is your immediate plan? What are you going to be doing in the next couple of days? Even when you want to go anywhere on a weekend. We've been trying to go away for a weekend for I don't know how long. And every time I'll sit down like, oh, I would like us to go, and she'll be like, oh yes, but then there is this, Nathaniel, we have to go see Clara. It's like, okay, when is a good time?
Yes.
When Clara finishes her exams, that's a good time. That's when we'll go. But these conversations are held. And that's because for me, I determined that, look here, the things I liked about this girl when I was chasing her, all of these things have not changed. I will still pursue her. I will still chase her. I will still date my wife. I still take my wife out on dates because for me, the things that attracted me to her have not changed.
They've not changed, yes.
I'm still attracted by the same things. I would tell my wife I love her every single day. I won't stop because I'm married. You know what I mean? Suddenly it was like, I loved you, when we were dating. No, I still do. I'm still concerned about you. So we've got to be intentional about it. You've got to have these conversations. Yes, she wants to start a bakery. You know absolutely nothing about it. Support her. What does it take? Sit down with her and say, what does it take to run a bakery? Have you done your research? Okay, let me do this. You do the financials. Let me do the market research and see if it's possible. Is it possible in this market? I mean, what are we going to bake? What are the demographics where we are? Who are we supplying to? Let me be a part of this dream of yours. Let me be part of this process. That way, even if it's your child, I am still part of the journey of delivering this child.
And I think the reason why, and I stand to be corrected, the reason why couples maybe are not doing this is because what you talked about, when the ring comes on, we stop pursuing. It becomes a thing of, this is what I wanted. I wanted married life. I wanted to be a Mrs. So-and-so, a Mr. So-and-so. And so we stop paying attention. And everything that was said before the wedding just stays there. And then what then happens is we begin to fight, we begin to argue, we begin to clash. And so even the dreams, the unfortunate thing is that time is going. So before you know it, you're 3 years in, 4 years in, the children have come, you are in mommy and daddy mode now, and life is really, really busy. That for that conversation to take place, I feel like you needed to have created an environment for it to take place, and maybe to speak more to what does pursuing look like? How do I continue to pursue my husband, or my husband continue to pursue me, so that when we do have those conversations, it's not a thing of we don't have money, it's not time, and for people to be dismissive of their partners.
So you see, when you're dating, you find every reason to be in the presence of the person you're dating. You find every reason to gift them, for example. You find excuses, even if you're saying nothing, just to be around them. Now that you're married, what has stopped? What has changed?
We're in the same environment.
We're still in the same environment. I'm still the same person. Yes, I might have put on a couple of pounds, but I'm still the same person.
Yes.
My heart hasn't changed.
Yeah.
I was telling someone one time that when you're dating, do you need a reason to buy your girlfriend a gift?
No.
Says no. I'm walking and I see a dress and I'm like, oh, she would look nice in this dress and buy this dress for her. And like, so do you still have those feelings about your wife? You see a dress and you're like, I was like, oh no. I'm like, you see, that's why you're getting it wrong. You're thinking about your wife as a wife and your girlfriend as your girlfriend.
Your girlfriend, yes.
And in our heads, we think that a girlfriend has got to be spoiled. Guess what? The wife is a girlfriend.
She is.
It's just that the title has changed, but she's still your girlfriend.
Still your girlfriend, yes.
She is still your friend. She's still a girl.
Yeah.
She's a mother of your children, yes. So I'll buy my wife gifts for absolutely no reason. I mean, I just want to buy you a gift. Yes, here's a gift. I buy her flowers. Yes, I still apologize and bring flowers. We still go on movie dates. We do. I mean, we've got, yes, a TV, I can go download the movies, but there's something about going to the cinema. So we still do all these things. So that doesn't stop. So pursuing is intentional.
Yes.
It has to be intentional. You've got to plan the date. You can't just wake up and say, hey, Rachel,
let's go her.
Let's go and, we haven't been out in a while. Plan the dates, dress up for them. Yeah. Be as meticulous. Go and pick her up from work. Plan the dates the way you used to plan them before. Yeah. Do those things. And I think that as men, again, this is where we drop the ball, is that we feel that the things that we did for our girlfriends are not the things that we do for our wives. Wives, you want to talk about developmental things. We're building a house, we're buying land.
Yeah.
No, she wants to talk about the small things,
things.
I buy olive chocolates until she told me stop. What are you trying to do?
Make me fat.
I'm like, I don't mind. Yeah. But yeah. So I had to stop.
Yeah.
When I travel, let me tell you, I travel.
Yeah.
And I don't buy anything for myself.
Yeah.
Until I've shopped for her.
Wow.
So I'll shop for her before I shop for myself.
Yeah.
I will come back with nothing.
But you come back with something for her.
So she's always saying, what have you bought for yourself? I'm like, don't worry about me.
Yeah.
Like, no, at least carry something for yourself, buy something. It's so difficult for me to buy something for myself when I travel because I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about my wife and my children. Yes. So I'll shop for the kids. I'll shop for her. So every time I go to Dubai, I love to stay near Mall of Emirates so that I can just walk to the mall. So I walk to the mall. When I go to the Mall of Emirates, the first couple of days I'm in Dubai, Victoria's Secrets is my first stop. They even know me.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they do. I go there every year. That's my first stop.
Yeah.
And I know that I walk in and I know what I'm buying for my wife. And I'll spend probably more than half of my money just buying the stuff for her because I know what she wants. Yeah. I know her shoe size, I know her bust size. Yeah. I know everything because I am intentional. So I know these things. So I'll buy this stuff because for me it's an expression of what I feel towards her. And I always tell her that buying this stuff for you is also an expression of the fact that I am not there. You're doing all of this stuff and I'm not there to help you.
So you're appreciating
So I am appreciating you for what you're doing while I am absent. Yeah. But also for me, it's the fact that what I felt for you then hasn't changed. In fact, I love you more now.
Yes, than
because I am with you every day and I see the sacrifices you've had to make for this family. And for me, that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
You've stayed with me. Staying with a person for 19 years is not easy.
It's not a joke.
It's not. Yeah. I mean, I remember people saying that they struggled in COVID. I was like, what? You struggled? Really? What? No, me, I was in
That was not your story.
Like, oh, yes. We are 24/7. We are. Oh yes, 24/7. We're together.
Yeah.
So we had long conversations. We really enjoyed our time together. So over the years, you have to be intentional. If you do not purpose, even the smallest thing, you will fail to do.
That's so true. You know, I'm sure the men who are watching are saying he's making us look bad. And that's what Ben keeps saying, like, but Bob, Bob is always making us look bad.
No.
So, I mean, I can attest to the things Bob is saying because I have witnessed them. We know how much you love Olive. I mean, just looking at, like, your anniversary posts every year, I'm like, these guys have been together 18 years. But, like, there's, like, 3 paragraphs Bob will tell us about Olive and how he makes, she makes him feel, and, the sacrifices that she has made. And I'm just like, this is what love should look like.
Yeah.
This is what marriage should look like. And I think for men, I just thought about something about, so a man who is probably watching you and saying, but how do I do that? Like, where do I start? Maybe in my background, I don't remember experiencing that kind of affection, because we have all sorts of reasons why we don't do certain things in marriage. I didn't experience affection. Maybe my mom was never home. So those things of love and pursuing your person, like, I just want to be about the provision business and keep it moving, as long as there's food on the table. And so maybe to speak to how men can receive help or even ask for help. And then we'll segue into what the other thing I wanted us to talk about, but talk to like men seeking help to be better. Because if half the men were thinking about their wives the way you're thinking about yours, then I think that marriages would be very far.
I think it starts with having to be in a place where you can have these conversations.
That's true.
In a safe environment where you won't be judged. And I think many men are not vulnerable to their struggles.
Yeah.
If you've not experienced love, you can't give love.
That's true.
Some of us have gotten married because we reached the age of marriage. And that's the only reason you got married.
Yes.
Some people got married because it's a sign of responsibility. Oh, he's married. He's got kids. He's a responsible person. But also know that there are places of work where they'll tell you you can't reach this level of management
if you're not married.
If you're not married.
Yes.
So again, there are all reasons why people get married.
Yeah.
Whatever the reason is that you found yourself in marriage, there is space for you to improve what your marriage is like. There's a space for you to relate better with your spouse. And for me, I speak to men, and I've spoken to men who struggle. And I've told them, look here, I have walked this journey, and like I said at the beginning, I am still learning. I am not a refined product. I still make mistakes, but I'm open about my challenges, and I talk to people about these things. I'm like, you know what, I'm struggling in this area. I don't know how to do this. The other day, my wife was telling me, you're such a poor communicator. And I'm like, yeah, tell me about it.
19 years later.
I'm like, 19 years later, I am still very poor at communicating.
Yeah.
And it's an area that I've struggled in.
Yeah.
Communication for me just doesn't come easy. I know I have these ideas, these plans. I know I'm going to do something on Sunday next week. And I may tell her on Friday. I may mention it.
A lot of men.
And I may mention it, a week. Yeah, like, oh yeah, there's this. And don't go into the details.
Yeah.
And she wants the details because she wants to organize herself.
Plan.
And I'm like, but I know you say it, but you never really talked about it. So for me, that's an area of struggle. But I acknowledge that. And I talk to people about it. There is safety in vulnerability because you are coming to a place where you're like, I strip myself of all these encumbrances that I have, and this is me. So, help me.
Help me.
It is so hard for men to ask for help because we think it's a sign of weakness. It actually comes from a very, very strong place.
Yes, true.
A person who is not strong cannot ask for help.
Imagine that.
We've thought that people who are weak are the ones who ask for help.
Yeah.
No.
It's the strong ones.
You have to be strong to ask for help.
Yeah.
Because culturally we're not brought up like that.
Yeah.
So as long as we look at it as, people think, there's a problem with me, you will struggle with these things. So I come to these men and I say, look here, we are not perfect. All of us have things that we're struggling with. Help me with my struggles as I help you with yours.
As I help you with yours, yeah.
I remember having a chat one time with a group of people and we're talking about marriage. And we're saying that the Bible tells women to respect their husbands. And it asks the men to love their wives. So someone says, so what comes first? And I'm like, that's where we get it wrong.
That's where we get it wrong.
We actually think that there is a condition for one to get the other. That's not how it is. As I love you, you respect
me. Yes.
So we actually are meeting halfway. And I told them, I challenge you to compete, to outdo each other in your responsibilities.
I like that.
love her more than she respects you.
Yeah.
As she respects you more than you love her.
You love her.
And that constant competition is what gets you over the edge.
Wow.
It has never been said that for you to respect, you must be loved, or for you to love, you must be respected. No, that's not what it was. It's a charge. Each of us is given a charge. Yeah. And if each of us run with our charge, you will discover that, hey, I want to be excellent in my charge as you're excellent in yours. Yes. So the competition is to outdo each other.
That's true.
And then you realize that, oh, this is actually not difficult. Yeah. So as men, we've got to recognize that we are not perfect. There are struggles that we have, but where there's safe spaces where we can have these conversations. There are places where these conversations cannot be had.
That's true.
If I don't feel safe telling you something,
I'm not going to say it.
I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
But if I'm in a place where I feel that the only reason I am telling you this is because you're the only person I can tell this, and you are committed to help me with this, I'll tell you. So first of all, you've got to accept that, oh, this is an area that I struggle in. Yeah. I mean, like we said, when you have chats with men and tell them, you know what, when did you tell your wife last that you love them? Like, do I have to? I have to. I show her.
Do I have to?
I fuel the car, I service the car. When the car gets spoiled, I fix it. I mean, do I have to tell her? Can she see it? But words are different from actions.
From actions, yes.
Yes, you could express your love through actions, but there is a power in saying it. Yeah. And also how you say it is important. You know, you can't be walking out of them. You know, I love you as you walk out. No, let me tell you, some things which are so hard for us to do.
I can imagine.
So hard.
Yeah.
Looking at your wife in her eyes and telling them, look here, I love you. I am crazy about you. Yeah. Like, what madness is this? You know?
Are you okay? Like, are you feeling okay?
Did something hit you on the head? You know,
Are you dying?
Did you get a promotion or something? What do you want? What did you do?
Yeah.
So we're also very suspicious.
Yes.
And the thing is that we're talking about men, but also women find it hard to receive it.
That's
true.
True.
There's a grace in receiving. Oh, you're joking. We've been to in places where someone tells you, look here, it doesn't matter what I tell my wife or she can't receive it.
That's so true.
And that hurts.
It does.
It breaks.
Yeah, it does.
So we have all these things that we've got to deal with externally, but also internally we have little struggles that we have.
As individuals.
Yeah. A woman who has never received love cannot receive love.
It's just a sad reality.
It is.
Yeah.
I work a lot with young men, and I was telling them, look here, I am doing everything I can to raise the best daughter that I can raise. And I'm hoping that out there is a guy who's raising the best son that they can raise.
Yeah.
That when my wonderfully raised daughter meets this wonderfully raised son, that union magic. Can last.
Yes,
they'll create magic.
Yes.
But I'm doing all of this, and there is some guy.
Some guy somewhere.
She's turning 18. I am watching.
You're watching.
I'm waiting for the guy who's coming.
I think you have dogs at home.
Not yet, but we'll go camping. We'll go camping where there is no network, there's nothing. Like, let's have real conversations. Yes, some really tough questions, and you can't run.
And I think that's a wonderful segue into the other thing I wanted us to discuss. That, I mean, you are raising a really a good daughter, and somebody that I work with, Dr. Evers, likes to say that the best gift you can give to your children is a good relationship, a good marriage relationship. So for you to love their mom, and then their mom to love you, and while you're doing that, and of course instilling all the values you can in her, there's the man who is being raised by someone else, and for women, we are prepped for marriage really from when we are little. We're taught how to do work at home, we're taught how to respect, men and women. We are taught a lot of things that then help us settle in a little more comfortably in the marriage space than our male counterparts. And you and Ben were at a conference a couple of weekends back. And he came back raving about it, and I was like, we need to have this conversation. So the conference is called Men's Encounter.
Men's Encounter, yes.
And it's just men going away to enrich themselves. I was like, this stuff does not happen often. And you talked about spaces where men can go and be vulnerable. And I think this is one of them. So tell us about this space, what inspired it, and what you guys achieve when you're there. You don't have to tell us the secrets and all, like things that are revealed. And then how important it is for maybe what the concern is, that men are not being prepared for the marriage space, and what things like Men's Encounter is doing to counter that.
All right. So, first of all, we started something a few weeks ago. A friend of mine called Moses, and I had a conversation, and he said, look here, his daughter was getting married, and was getting married to someone I knew, because I worked with at St. Francis. He's part of our media team. And Moses and I were talking and I was saying, the women get prepared for marriage. Mother's Union calls the girl, talks to the girl, you know, they have a bridal shower, they have all this stuff, they prepare them, they give them gifts, you know, they talk to them. And so the men have nothing. The guy goes in there with all the ideas from his friends who are not married. And they've told him all these things about marriage, and like when you go in there, you know your space, your TV, your remote control, you know your chair. These are the ideas that guys are coming with into marriage. Apart from what they're getting in counseling. So he said, why don't we do something similar for the boys? So we started something like that.
Okay.
So we invited this young man and a couple of his friends. We took them out for dinner.
Wow.
We had other men, told them just come. We're housing you. We sat down with them. We had dinner, and then we talked to him.
Wow.
And his father, we invited his father.
Yeah.
And the father was in tears. He said, I'd never seen anything like this. Never. And for us, it was a chat, because we're like, you know what, our kids are now getting married.
That's true.
We prepared the girls. Now the boys, they're raw.
Yes.
They're just going there with, you know, brave heart. Let me go see what's happening in there. I hear people talking about marriage. How difficult can it be?
No.
You know, so I love the girl. She loves me. I provide.
And we are good.
So we discovered that there's a lot that they don't know.
Yeah.
But even in counseling, normally, in counseling, you have general conversations about on marriages, but there is no space for you to talk about the real fears and the real dangers and the real things associated with getting into that space.
Yeah.
Men carry baggage.
Yeah.
And there's nowhere to offload it. And you see, as you carry baggage, it just keeps growing and growing and gets heavier and heavier and weighs on you more and more. There is a guy near our place. Every morning we're coming to work, and you hear him, and he's having a conversation with himself.
Wow.
Full conversation.
Yeah.
And the things he's talking about, you can tell that he has no space
to offload.
Yeah. And there are many like that. They have nowhere to offload this baggage, and so they carry it until it completely puts them down. So the Men's Encounter is a brainchild of, it was brought to us in St. Francis by our friends from Christchurch, Overland Park, Kansas, US. And they came and introduced a Men's Encounter. And the Men's Encounter is a time that men separate themselves, really to be with God, but also to have an opportunity to speak into each other's lives. So it is all structured around biblical principles, understanding the cross, the Holy Spirit, forgiveness and brokenness and forgiveness and healing, which is one of the biggest things and one of the most. So it starts with openness and transparency. You be open and transparent about your struggles. Okay?
Which are there.
Which are, and all of us have them.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if we talk about struggles, we come into marriage with struggles that we've had as young boys. And we've not overcome these addictions and these difficulties.
That's true.
And we get into marriage and those things are still there because you haven't dealt with them. So it's a good time for us to acknowledge, first of all, that this is an issue. And then we go into understanding the root cause of these issues, and then we go into forgiveness and healing, which is, for me, one of the biggest things, is that we have hearts from back then.
Back in the day.
You're married, but you're still remembering the girl who dumped you and how that felt. You're still remembering how your parents rejected you. It has not gone away because you've never dealt with it. You've not forgiven them. You've not forgiven that teacher who got you suspended.
Yes.
You've not forgiven the time when your parents went out of the country and they left you.
They left you here.
There are all of these things that we have not forgiven.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because we are not with those people anymore, we are married often, you find that the person you met this anger on are the people immediately around you.
That's true.
Your spouse and your children,
Yeah.
and the people in your homes. So those are the baggages that we go with. So this men's encounter is the time for us to just refresh ourselves, to separate ourselves from all the noise and be in a place where you're with just men. Let me tell you. First of all, there is power in the presence of togetherness.
That's so true.
There is a way that God honors when people come together.
Yeah.
But also there is a way that men being, because again, we are called to be priests in our homes. So you imagine a whole community of priests in one place.
Wow.
That is the power that you bring in there.
Yeah.
But you break into small groups. And in those small groups, you say that this is a time when you can actually be really vulnerable. And people talk about stuff. Rachel, let me tell you, people talk about stuff.
Can you imagine?
We don't record anything.
Yeah.
We don't write stuff down.
Yeah.
If you want to write during it's your personal notes you're writing, but we don't write down stuff.
Yeah.
I've been to, I think, 8 men's encounters.
Really?
And I tell people that every year I go because there's still stuff that I'm dealing with.
Yes.
8 years down the road.
Yes.
Because somehow every time you go there, God reveals something else to you.
Yep.
You're struggling in this area, you let it go. There's another area. Because we're constantly being refined. We are not the perfect product.
That's true.
And there's a whole year for us where we make all these mistakes and we need to go and offload. There are all these baggages that we carry on this journey called life. So in that space during that weekend, let me tell you, it is too short for us to exhaust what we want to achieve in that weekend. That thing is supposed to end on Sunday at about 11. We never leave before 3.
No.
Because something comes up.
Yes.
There's this and this. We want to talk about this. And then people want to talk about overcoming whatever challenges they had. So it's a wonderful time that we separate ourselves. So when you break into those small groups, people are a lot more vulnerable in those groups. But there's also opportunity for you to just speak to an individual in a safe place.
Wow.
And no one is going to think and say, oh, what are Bob and Ben talking about?
No.
Because we are all there for the same reason we have our issues that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Rachel, that I've spoken to ladies who've told me that the man that went is different from the man that came back.
Yeah.
If it was possible, I would send this man to you every week because I like the man who has come back.
Wow.
He's a different man. So stuff actually happens.
Yeah.
So the men's encounter is a very, very powerful ministry. The difficult thing is getting men together is so hard.
It's hard.
Let me tell you, getting those men together is a difficult thing.
Yes.
But here's where it's more exciting for me, is that the number of young people, young marrieds who are coming for the men's encounter grows every single year.
Wow.
People, we've already set the dates for next year.
No way.
I'm telling you. We've set the dates for men's encounter for next year. And there are people who have said we are coming. I did an impromptu fundraising for the men's encounter because we want to get more young men in there who may not be able to afford to come. And in that one, well, it was like a less than 10-minute fundraising drive. We raised 15 million in commitments. And we said, I'll give a million. 15.5 million shillings was raised in those 10 minutes.
Wow.
Because we recognize that we need men who have been brought up as men to raise a generation of people who fear God and are responsible.
That's true.
You know, when I was talking about doing everything I am doing to raise a fine girl, I am hoping that there's someone who's raising a fine guy for him.
Yeah.
I've got 2 sons, and I have got to walk this journey with these boys of mine, because I want the boy that meets whoever's daughter to be the best version of themselves.
That's true.
You said Evers says the best gift you can give your children is the relationship you have with your spouse. And Uncle O used to say the best gift you can give your children is loving their mother.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's one of the best lessons you can teach your children.
Yeah.
Love their mother. They will learn a lot more from that than anything you tell them.
That's true.
Because you will say all this stuff. But if it's not reciprocated in the actions that follow,
then
no lesson has been taught.
Yeah.
Yes, you have said it, but they've learned nothing.
Yeah.
So for us, we've got to understand that the intentionality of everything we do is to make sure that the next generation of young men and women who come up is a generation that actually takes the mantle of responsibility, of care upon themselves, having walked that journey and seen what it means to love and to be loved and to be cared for. And for me, I feel that we don't have enough time to separate ourselves to be able to learn these principles. But when the opportunity presents itself, we need to be able to take it with both hands and say, you know what, I'm going to take as much as I can from this because I never know when else I'm going to learn this.
That's so true. I think what I really appreciate about Men's Encounter and what you're trying to do, including you getting, this young man who was getting married, is that for long, women have been saying, but where are the men? Where are the men? Women are being prepared for marriage. Men this, men that, to a point where we've talked about it until our voices are hoarse.
Yeah.
But to hear that men are actually seeing that there's a gap in the readiness and preparation for men to enter this marriage space and family space is very refreshing. And that you're not just recognizing it, that you're actually doing something about it. And you're so right when you say that, we all come to the marriage space with baggage, including the women. Yeah. The difference is, as women, we talk about our things. We know how to say, hey, by the way, this area, I'm really struggling in it. And the men struggle, to acknowledge that they actually have, that they need support, And so I really wish that more men would take on this challenge and create more men's encounters, create spaces where men can come together to deal with stuff, to offload. I just like the theme of openness and transparency, saying that I have an issue and this is my issue and I want to overcome this issue. How can you help me? How can Bob help me? Maybe Bob has dealt with something different, And so I really, really appreciate what Men's Encounter is doing.
I was telling someone one time that when I meet people, my friends, and we have general conversations, and they really stick to having general conversations, I stop that general conversation and ask the hard questions.
Really?
Yes, because I know that the general conversation is a mask not to get into a difficult conversation.
That's true. That's true.
And men are very good at this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we'll talk about football, we'll talk about cars, we'll talk
politics.
about, we'll talk about politics and everything else.
Except.
And then you guys will come back home and like, hey, I met my friends today. How are you guys?
So
how they're fine. Hey, they're fine. Everything is okay. They're building a new house. He's got a new car, his job and what. Everything is okay.
Yeah.
And you've had that conversation. And next week you'll meet and you will have another conversation around those areas. Until you start
noticing,
reading the actual story.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what? Okay, we've talked about Man United. Now tell me.
What's really going on?
What is going on? You're like, oh, everything's going on. No. I know that's okay, but now, how are things? How are things at home? Let's take a walk.
Yeah.
When they start talking, then you realize that, okay,
the house has been on fire for a long time.
And this guy has been in this house with that's on
with
fire.
Flames.
And that is the difficult thing, is that, I ask people, Rachel, how are you? Fine. You're like, you're fine. Yes, I'm fine. You're like, oh, that's good. Okay, I'm also fine. All right, okay, good. Bye-bye. See you. The next day you hear Rachel's in hospital. Why? Depression. But I was with Rachel yesterday and she was fine.
The other day.
So what happened in 24 hours? What is so bad that she got depressed over 24 hours?
Yes.
But she's had this for a very long time.
Yeah.
And because we've not gone beyond the layers that she's given us, we never uncover all this stuff.
That's true.
So now for me, when I sit down with guys and I realize that the conversation is all fun and games, I stop and I'm like, okay, so let's talk about, tell me really what's going on.
What's going on? How are you?
How are you?
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
Really? When was the last time you did this and that? And I'll tell you that when you ask genuine questions, people actually tell you.
That's true.
Because one thing I've realized about men is that when you show genuine concern to their plight, they will tell you what they're going through.
Open up.
Because it's not difficult for a man to open up to another man because they know you will understand what they're going through. But it is in you asking that question. Very few men will come up to you and volunteer. They will say that, you know what, I want to talk to you. They will only get to that point when they're against the wall, they are caught between a rock and a hard place, and they have absolutely nowhere to go, and they know that person can help me. That's when they may come.
Yeah.
But for most of them, you've actually got to ask that question.
Make the effort.
You've got to make the effort to find out what they're going through, and that's when they will
open up.
They'll open up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
because we have been in those spaces. We've been in those places where we have met, talked, we've eaten, and everyone has gone away happy. And then later on, you're like, but wait a minute.
I didn't really find out how these guys.
I didn't find out how these guys are doing.
Yeah.
You know, and the next time you come, they start the conversation, they will tell you about, you know, hey, football yesterday, you know, again, our road is very bad, our MP, we go
our
back home.
MP. So you talk about everything else except what's important.
There was a time when Ben, I, and Peter used to meet every day.
Every week, yes.
On Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I got home and Olive asked me, so, what do you guys talk about? And I'm like, yeah, we talk about everything, you know. We talk about life, we talk about our families, talk about our children, you know. Those of us who have children, we talk about this, we talk about these things. And she was like, what else? I'm like, yeah, well, we eat food and then we come back home. I could see the disappointment in her face, because she's like, you guys committed to meet every week.
Yeah. Just to talk about
football.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that all? And I could tell that, oh, wait a minute, there is more to this.
There's more to this.
We have to... We've actually done the hard part of being there. However, we've achieved absolutely nothing. Because talking about football is not going to change the football club. It just make us feel good about, you know?
Yes.
So, when those opportunities present themselves now, I am intentional.
You're very intentional, yes.
I don't leave that meeting without digging deeper to find out what's going on. Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you won't. Yeah. Sometimes you take a couple of meetings for them to get to that point where they trust you enough, because the truth is that in some cases they've trusted someone and they've let them down.
They've let them down, yes.
But I've also learned one of the most valuable lessons in my life. There's probably a lot said in not saying anything.
Yeah.
Because for many men, the solutions they're looking for in life, they actually have the answers. They just want someone to be able to listen to their answer, to their solution, to their problem. So I've got to that place where I sit down with people and I let them speak. And I ask them, do you want my opinion? And sometimes they'll say, yeah.
You tell me.
You tell me what you think. And sometimes they'll be like, well, if you have anything else you want to share. And for me, that's usually a cue that, you know what, I've gotten to this point where they've trusted me enough to tell me. I'll wait for another invitation where they will ask me what I think.
What you think. And more likely than not, it will come.
It will always come. You leave that door open because you've respected them enough not to tell them things, but to listen to them. They will always come back and seek your counsel.
That's so true.
Because they value that relationship and the time you've given them. So I've learned to sometimes just
be available to listen.
Just be available to listen.
Yeah. I actually think I remember when the dynamic in your relationship with Ben shifted, or at least the part where you were now starting to be intentional about asking like more intentional questions about like how he's doing. I remember that period where you guys were meeting and then there was something that happened in our marriage, and then the shift happened and I realized that you were more intentional about checking in, and even when you checked in, it was not how are you guys, what's up, what, it's like, no, what's really going on, you know. And I think there's a lot to be said about men and the community that they keep, the friends that they keep. I always tell my husband, you have the best friends in the world. Like if our marriage failed, it would not be because you have bad friends. Like that one, that reason is not on the list. It would be because the two of us maybe have failed to agree. But I think men, every time somebody approaches me and they're like, oh, we're getting married, my husband this, my fiance, I'm like, I really hope he has good friends. Because first, as a wife, you have a fallback. You know that I can call Bob and say, but this guy, you know, and then you can say, oh, maybe in this area, be patient with him, or I'm going to talk to him and have a conversation with him. And so I just wanted to say that I did notice the shift. But as we close, something that we've been talking about then led me to think, is there room then for his wife to be the person that he can offload to, the person that he can engage and talk to about his struggles? And I know that maybe we may not be able to handle everything because some things are heavy, but where do we miss the mark where a husband doesn't feel free to come and say, by the way, babe, I'm struggling with this thing. I may not give you all the details, but this is my struggle area. And maybe what can couples do to create that intimacy where a man feels vulnerable enough to share with his wife what he's going through?
In my opinion, I think there's only one place
where
she won't use it as a weapon against him. Because you see, men and women are wired differently.
That's true.
Women, I've had conversations where women have fought and they have brought back stuff in that fight.
Oh.
And I'm like, hey, really? Primary school? Secondary school? How long ago was that? Really? So this fight started back then.
Started way back, yes.
So they just collect ammunition and they keep it for a rainy day and they will bring it on.
Wow.
I was having a talk one time in a marriage and I said, if you as a couple, if you're fighting, please fight fair. Have a fair fight. Let the fight be about the issue on the table now. Don't bring back stuff that happened last week. That fight should have ended. Or you can schedule it for another day. But let's remain on point. Today we're fighting about you coming late and forgetting to bring the vegetables that I asked you. Don't talk about
when
the
pillow. I forgot to buy milk.
Come on, let's get serious. Let the fight be about. But anyway, on a serious note, I think that many women fight unfair. But also it's because, again, the way society is and the fact that they feel that they're perceived as the weaker sex. So their fight is not going to be physical. Their fight is going to be verbal. And the more verbal ammunition you have, the higher the chances of winning a fight is. So they'll bring everything in. So men may be afraid to share some of these struggles because inherently, you know, there's going to be a day when
she might bring this up.
When we will clash. And this is going to come back. And that's not fair. So that may be one of the reasons why they don't. But also there is this perception amongst many people that what you share with your wife necessarily doesn't remain with her. She's got girlfriends. She's got sisters.
She's going to share it.
She's going to share it.
Yes.
And she may be sharing it in good faith. That, you know what, my husband struggles with this.
Please pray for him.
Please pray for us. Usually those prayers are loud, other people hear them.
I know.
Because how else does someone get to know what you're praying about?
True.
So that's where the fear is. So we've got to get to a point where, as a spouse, you create a space and environment where you know, where your husband knows that whatever he shares with you stays with you, and you're not going to use it against them. My wife, one of the reasons I am smitten by all of you up to this day is that I know that what happens in our house stays in our house. I've never had it anywhere. For me, that's one of the things that tells me that this woman here is perfect for me.
She's sold out.
She respects me. She cares about me. She loves me. She honors me. Mostly, she defends me.
And covers you, yes.
My wife covers me.
Yeah.
There's stuff I fall short.
Yeah.
No one knows. My wife knows where I fall short,
Yeah.
and no one else does, because she's covered me, and it doesn't matter what I've done.
Yeah.
And I've told you that I've disappointed her in many ways, and she will never bring it up anywhere. So for me, that's a point of comfort, and I'm not afraid to tell her, because I know that's going to remain between me and her.
Yeah.
As women and as wives, we have a cardinal responsibility of protecting and covering our husband's weaknesses.
That's true.
And when we get to that point where they know that she's covered me, she's graceful enough to accept my weaknesses and help me walk through it, they'll tell you the stuff. They'll tell you what they're struggling with.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they don't, if they don't trust that, if that trust is not there, they'll never tell you. They will come up with, let me tell you, it's much easier for a man to lie to you
than to open up
to you. He will lie to you in your face.
Yeah.
If he feels that, hey, this little truth here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be
the next time we have a family meeting, they are going to call me outside and tell me,
yeah, we had.
Well, what were you thinking?
So that guy is like, nah, it will not be me.
I'll die with this movie. I'll die in this movie. This one I'll die with. No.
Yeah.
So those notions are very difficult, and they're really, really hard. And yet the funny thing is that you make those vows and make those commitments that everything I have, everything I'll share with you. Within the love, we talk about this stuff, and yes, we have every intention of keeping those vows and being true to those things. But then you reach there and then you realize that
is different.
The practical is different. The theory is theory. Practical, hard, very hard. So it's a continued journey that you know that every day you have to refine yourself. Every day you have to be a better version of who you were the day before. But every day you've got to recognize that I have an opportunity to make right what I did wrong.
Yeah.
I was telling another young man one time that one of the failures in marriage is this whole idea of leaving tomorrow today. You have the baggage of today, and then you bring in the baggage of tomorrow. And you're like, so you see someone, you're like, hey, what's up? I'm not worried. Why are you worried? Oh man, I don't know where I'm gonna get food. Tomorrow. You don't have food? No, I have food today, but tomorrow. But tomorrow hasn't come. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Why are you worried about tomorrow?
Yes.
Think about now.
Yeah.
Are you okay now?
Yeah.
Yes. Be happy now. Tomorrow, let's worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes. It will take care of itself. But we live so far into the future that we don't enjoy the present. We lose presence because we're worried about the future. Plan for the future, yes. Yeah. But the present and now, enjoy the present and now.
Yeah.
That's why when you have an opportunity to be with your spouse in a place in that moment, enjoy that moment.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow is not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed, yeah.
So if you're worried about tomorrow, then you lose today. Those are 2 losses you've had.
Imagine that.
2. I'm like, huh?
That's a lot.
So a guy look at me and said, hey, you know what,
Let me enjoy today.
Let me enjoy today because
tomorrow is not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed.
You know.
But even when tomorrow comes, you realize that God gives you enough grace for that day.
For that day, He does.
He does.
Yeah.
But you're so worried about tomorrow, you forget. And some people worry a whole week in advance. You're like, you know what? Now the kids are coming back next week. Today's Monday, Sunday. Hey, Sunday, what am I going? Now there's Friday, there's Saturday, there is Thursday. Hey, but dude,
today,
you don't know what's happening tomorrow. Tomorrow you may be surprised, but whatever day you've lost.
You've lost it.
You've lost.
You've lost it.
You can never gain back.
That's true. That's true. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for being here. Is there anything final you'd want to share, especially with the men, and maybe to encourage the women? Because not every man is like Bob, you know. And there are women who are going through some really tough marriages because their men are completely clueless on their own struggles. And therefore, like you said, they come into the marriage with baggage, and the best person to offload that baggage on is the wife. And so she's bearing the brunt of this man's unhealed young self. I would like to think that it gets better. So I guess speak to both the men and the women in closing.
I used to say, as a statement that I love to make, is one of the difficulties we have is absence of presence. And it's those things, it's you being there and you're not there.
Yeah.
It's a waste of space.
Such a tragedy.
It is. And unfortunately, that's where we are for many people. That, yes, I am in the room and I'm not there.
But I'm not here.
My mind is elsewhere. Everything about me is, I miss everything that's happening because I have wandered off. And sometimes our marriages get to that place where we just wander and we're thinking, okay, if I'd married this person, or if I'd made this choice, if I'd known that I wouldn't be suffering this.
Yeah.
And you completely rid yourself of the ability to enjoy every good thing around you. And as men, we've got to understand that when you walk into a marriage, first of all, you've got to understand that the person, especially for a man, has done you a huge favor to accept you. She could have said no.
This is true.
So the sacrifice that she's made to say yes is a victory in itself. Live every day of your life to celebrate that victory of her saying yes. Find every opportunity to celebrate her and to enjoy her.
Wow.
Give everything you can, but mostly what she needs is your time and your presence. So make yourself present.
Yeah.
For the women, I'll say this, that your man is only as good as you let him be. You can choose the devil in him. You can choose the king in him.
That's true.
Allow him to be the king and let him spoil you. Don't feather him much, but allow him to see you. Make yourself seen by him. Give him the opportunity to wrong the things that he's done, to right the wrongs.
The things that he's wronged, yeah.
To right the wrongs.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think we get so hurt that we don't allow room for healing.
Yeah.
And a person who's wounded is going to wound you.
This is true.
So as long as he's wounded, he'll wound you. So allow him to heal. Allow that forgiveness to flow. Of course, sometimes some of the things that we do are really, really, you're like, this one is unforgivable. You know, like, well, look here.
Yeah.
I tell myself that unless it kills you, it can only make you stronger.
That's true.
Unless it kills you,
Yeah.
it can be forgiven. And I may not be in that place where I've committed that sin or that wrong that is we think is unforgivable. But someday it could be me.
Yeah.
So if I don't have enough grace to accept you, how will you accept me? So if you need to find it in yourself that where I ask for acceptance, I have to offer the same level of acceptance. So even when you walk this journey as husband and wife, each of us wanting to present a better version of ourselves, we've got to understand that we never reach a point where you're like, yes, I have got the formula, I know what it is. This is it.
Yeah.
Because if that's, when you reach that point,
Then
you stop trying.
That's true.
And when I say that for me, 19 years down the road, I'm still learning. It's because I've put myself in a place where I tell myself, I can't get too comfortable, because when I get comfortable in this space where I think, I've arrived, then I'll stop doing the things that actually got me to here.
Yeah.
We talk about marriages failing within weeks, within months, within days of people walking down the aisle. Then you ask yourself, but how did the other people make 60 years?
Yes. What were they doing differently?
One day at a time.
That's true.
One day at a time. And every single day, I tell my wife, I'll find a reason to love you every single day.
Yes.
Every single day I'll find one reason to love you. And that will carry me for the next day.
Wow. Wow. Oh, thank you, Bob. What a way to end the show. You know, when I called you, I was like, I knew what I wanted us to talk about, but I think this has gone better than I expected. So thank you. And say thank you to Olive for
We'll definitely do.
for releasing you.
Thank you.
Even to your workplace. But no, thanks to Olive.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks
It's
to Olive.
yeah. Thank you so much.
I really hope that there are men who are watching this show and have picked something from our conversation today, but also to the women, to encourage you that there are things that we can each do to make our marriages better. A lot of healing, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of transparency, a lot of, somebody says love is to the other person, thinking about the other person and just outdoing them in loving them, you know, and hopefully the other person is reciprocating. So thank you for this conversation. Thank you for joining us. Comment, share, like, and please subscribe to the Good Wife Podcast. We'll be back again next week. Until then, bye-bye.